Happy Thursday, my Wid Warriors. What's up? How are you all? Who do we have here hanging out with me this morning? I've got Jaber and Nancy and Steve and Moose. Bring it on. Welcome, team. Who else do we have? We've got Eileen and Martha. Wonderful. Good to have you all here. I'm sure we'll have more people joining us in just a minute or two. How's it going? Anybody want to pop in the comments? What have you gotten done this week? Name one good thing that you got done this week. I want to see it in the comments. What have you done? How are we being productive this week? Talk to me, people. Talk to me. Hey, Maria. Hey, David. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Susie. Hey, Simone. Who else is here that I missed? Hey, Jane. I think I mentioned Martha. Good. Our second Steve. Wonderful. Hi, team. What'd you get done this week? Pop it in the chat. Don't worry, this isn't public. That's the beauty of Work It Daily. It's not out on Facebook. It's not out on LinkedIn. You can tell me what you did. Did you learn to bake bread? I just want you to know that I can't seem to get any yeast in my town because the entire community has decided to become bread bakers. Now, I personally have been a bread baker for quite a while. I make my own pizza dough. I make rolls for my family. And now I cannot get yeast because everybody's baking. All this procrastinating. Let's see. Joined a webinar on compliance. Leo, nice. Way to start building the skills. Nancy said networked with someone who's going to connect me with one of his contacts. Jaber did professional strengths assessment. Steve's reading Takes What It Takes. Oh, love that book. Love that book. Moose said, what did Moose do? I'm trying to, you guys are going fast and furious on me now here. Hold on. Finished bike trailer caddy. Oh, very nice. Taking WordPress class. Nice, Teresa. Started the personal branding course. Excellent. Jeffrey had an interview yesterday. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Excellent. Yoga every morning. Go, Leo. I know. I'm on the treadmill every morning, in case you all are wondering. That's me doing my 5 miles on the treadmill. That's my sanity check right now. Let me tell you, I get all my best ideas on the treadmill. I don't know about you all. Let's see. Wonderful. Jeffrey asked the recruiter, and the recruiter said about what to talk about with the CEO. And it's about running the most profitable business in the world over the last several decades and how to maintain the culture to remain the best in your field. Wonderful. I love that. S had a phone interview. Wonderful. Yay on the interviews, folks. Taking an advanced Excel course. Wonderful. Learning to monetize with YouTube. Go, Brandon. YouTube's a good thing. Oh, very good. Leo, walk 25 meters to collect money for first responders. I love it. Do you meters or miles? That's a lot. Good job, team. So we're staying productive. That's good. That's what I want to hear. This is a time of mass disruption. So I'm going to get all sorts of philosophical on you, but somebody, my own business coach, my own coach, because I practice what I preach. I have a coach and I'm part of a community of CEOs, just so you know, very, very important. And we get together right now every 2 weeks. And we were together last night and he played this beautiful video, and I'm sure you've all heard of it before, but basically it's the story of this grandfather, right? And he tells his grandson that there are two wolves. There are two wolves out in the wilderness, and there isn't enough food and only one can survive. And I'm paraphrasing here very quickly. And the one wolf is angry and fearful and intense and, in fighting. And the other wolf is loving and peaceful and curious and positive and grateful for the surroundings, the two wolves. And the grandson says, well, which one will live, grandfather? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. And it's supposed to be sort of this proverb around this idea that right now we can sit and feed the negativity and give ourselves anxiety and put ourselves in a bad mood, or we can shut that down, like I tell you, with the negativity diet, and we can feed the positivity and we can look for the opportunities and we can think about the future. Because right now we're just kind of in this hanging thing and everyone just wants to move. I've had people say to me as I'm in coaching, they're like, GT, I just want the hammer to drop. Like, what? Just bring it. Make the tidal wave hit me. I know it's coming. I know something's bad's coming. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to stink. But, right now I'm just kind of sitting in this weird place and I just want it to be over with. You are not alone. That's how everyone's feeling right now. Because it just feels so weird. It's all just so weird as we're sitting here, But the best thing you can do right now is be here right now in the moment and look for the positive, look for the opportunities. Be neutral. Don't assume that this tsunami is coming. Don't assume that it's going to be the most awful, worst, painful thing you've ever experienced, because it may not be. And as I've pointed out to a bunch of you, there's going to be millions of people, not hundreds of million, unfortunately, but a subset of people who come out of this stronger, more focused, and looking for the opportunity to rewrite a whole new future. I know I'm looking that way, and I have my whole team looking that way. We have a whole new future in front of us where everything's changed, and the sooner we start to look at where the opportunities lie, the better. The people that help us custom build the program that you're on, Work It Daily, the phone app and the program, they're saying that the future is the passion economy, that out of this will come people just diving in and saying, with my free moments, I'm going to build a hobby career around my passion. Because what do I have to lose? Nothing. And that all of this incredible stuff is going to come out of it. So they think like we do, which makes me so proud, because now I know we invested in the right technology and the right tech partner. That's for sure. But I'm just not going to give up on that with all of you. You better come see me. If you're starting to have those doubts, I got to get you refocused on being here and present and now. Quit with the negativity, focus on the positivity. Can we do that? Right. And if you're not feeling focused, by the way, a couple of techniques that I wanted to share with you. And if it all goes well, I'm actually going to be doing a session next week with my sister. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and she is specializing right now in helping people with anxiety. She also is a huge fitness enthusiast, but not in that crazy way that would make you, feel diminished. It's more of an inclusive kind of thing. And she's working with people on this idea of how to disrupt your breath. So disrupting your breath. So what they found is that when we have this anxiety, we need to disrupt our breathing. And so she teaches people, remember I was telling you all about the Pomodoro technique where you put a timer on for 5 minutes and do a task you don't want to do just for 5 minutes? Well, she applies the same technique, but with breathing. So she says, when you're feeling anxious or stressed or whatever's going on, you need to put a 5-minute timer on and go walk around outside your house 3 times. Or I want you to walk up and down your stairs for 5 minutes. It's it, 5 minutes. Don't break a sweat or anything, but disrupt your breathing. Do something that requires some sort of physical effort, because your body is chemically going into the fight or flight mode. So when we have panic and anxiety, it's a chemical response. It's honestly, it's in a lot of ways, it's the same response of when you're excited or positive about something, but we're attaching negativity to it. So she says, 5-minute timer, up and down the stairs, around the house, whatever you need to do to change your breathing, to pay attention to your breathing and change it, which will help you immediately change your state, your physical state. And then the other technique she has you do is concentration on relaxing every single part of your body. So you have to every day practice, okay, start with your pinky toe and then the rest of your toes and your big toe and then your foot and then your ankle. And she walks them through. And it's not like new age hooey or anything. It's just, hey, let's get mentally fit at recognizing and focusing on relaxing our body and disrupting our breath. So I wanted to share those 2 techniques with you all today, because if anyone's not feeling focused or feeling that, it's probably because you've had a prolonged state of that anxiety, and you need to use that Pomodoro technique and really disrupt your breathing, right? Really, really get in there. Just some deep breaths, walking around, pay attention, change things up. Can you all do that for me? Let me know how it works. I think it works pretty well. Wonderful. So, and you got to keep going. So now I'm going to talk, I always give it to you straight. And I see a lot of people jumping in, and I'm sure all of you have pretty cool apps or things that you use as well, videos, whatever. Share, right? Don't be shy to share in this community. Great way to give it right now is any resources you're finding that you think are helpful, get them in here. That's what we want to see. Okay. But, I want to address a question that came to me. So if you guys would indulge me for just a minute, I want to address something really important. So a question that I've gotten a lot lately is, JT, I've been laid off, and what's the number one thing I can do for myself in the layoff situation? Now, I've done a video about the 10 questions you should ask when you get laid off. And that's a really helpful tool so that people have a checklist so they know to cover their base. But if I had to pick one thing out of that, I'm going to tell you right now, every employee out there that gets laid off should be going back to their employer and asking for some sort of outplacement, which is better known as job coaching. So all of you inside the Work It Daily platform, you understand that this is essentially outplacement. It's job search coaching. And the reason I would tell anyone today that's been laid off, as of this broadcast this morning, another 5 million plus people filed for unemployment. We have 22 million people in 4 weeks on unemployment. That's over 18% unemployment rate in 4 weeks. Up until now, the most number of people that ever filed for a claim was back in the 80s, and it was like 680 something thousand people. So this is new territory. And that is why I'm telling everyone, if you're watching this video, you likely know one or more people who have been laid off. Tell them to go to their employer and ask for them to provide outplacement. Are they providing? Because some employers have outplacement, but they're not giving it to everyone. They're giving it to people who ask. And if they're not providing outplacement, you should ask them if they'd be willing to reimburse you for outplacement. If they'd be willing to reimburse you, for example, our platform, because it's so much less expensive than traditional outplacement, and it's an expense that they could write off as a business, right? Because it's an employment expense. So it would be good for them to be able to write it off. Most definitely. Now, for those of you, if your employer will not do that, you really think about it. 22 million people are trying to get help with their job search at unemployment offices across the US that were never, ever built or equipped to help them. On top of that, most of the unemployment offices are generally focused, their resources are focused on people who have potentially chronically struggled to get employment, have had challenges in the past. You're talking about millions of people who have never, ever, ever filed for unemployment before and have never been in this position before and actually need a different set of materials, coaching materials, different set of techniques, different strategies. And the unemployment offices, the government unemployment offices, they're just not equipped for this. We already have unemployment offices in the US reaching out to us here at Work It Daily and putting some of their people in here that they can't serve. Because social distancing, right? And most of these unemployment agencies don't have the online resources. They certainly don't have a phone app like we do. So I am telling you, there's a chance you could get your outplacement, your job search coaching paid for by your employer, and you should be asking for it because you're not going to be able to get it from the unemployment offices, and it's something they can write off. So for those of you that have experienced it, if you're hearing this for the first time, that would be my advice. Go back and inquire. Now, if you can't, and they won't, the other good news is that come tax season next year, you should keep all the receipts, because if you are unemployed and you are subscribed to a job coaching resource like Work It Daily, you can keep those receipts and you can write them off in your taxes. So everybody should be keeping their receipts. That'll all be tax deductible next year for the time that you were looking for work. And that is huge. So don't forget to save those, okay? Really, really important. But I just want to say that to everyone. If you know someone that's been laid off, they are going to need job search coaching because of the sheer volume of people and how competitive it's going to be when we start to go back. And so it's important they have that. And, you already here, our Work It Daily family, you know what it can do for you. You know how important it is to have that right mindset. We don't want to hold back from anybody getting those resources. Now, we also know a lot of people just won't bother. They just won't bother to invest in themselves, right? We have a lot of people that have received stimulus checks, and instead of carving out a little money to improve themselves and prepare themselves, they'll probably spend it on other things, and that's everyone's prerogative. But those of you, we won't have hundreds of millions of people, but those of you that were smart enough to invest in yourself and put yourself in a place where you can stay positive, where you can get resources, where you can, make sure that everything's good to go, you are the ones I'm talking about that are going to totally take advantage of this next economy. So you should reach around right now and you should pat yourselves on the back, because even though this isn't easy, right? And I know you get up every day and you feel just like everyone else, that anxiety creeps up. You have invested in yourself. You are going to stay positive. We are going to help you stay in the right mindset. We are going to help you get in gear, and you're going to have that energy and that motivation. It's the community and the coaching that's going to keep you in momentum, and you will eventually land. And then you're going to keep your eyes open, and you are going to look for even more opportunity, and you are going to create an incredible life out of this. You will. It's a choice. And we are going to help make sure that you make the right choice. So good for you. And we're so glad you're here, because this is the community we always dreamed of serving. And we've had new people every single day join us. All you new folks, we're so glad you're here. Stay with us. We will be the game changers. Work It Daily and its members will be the game changers, and you will be part of that. I promise you. Okay? All right. Well, thank you for letting me share that with everyone, because it's been really weighing on me as I've watched this all unfold. And I know I'm not going to be able to reach everyone. I know Work It Daily isn't for everyone, but for those of you that have joined, it's going to be good. We're going to make a really good thing out of what's being given to us right now. I'm not going to call this, it's sad and it's frustrating and it's a curveball and it's hard, but I'm going to call it powerful, because myself and the team here are going to choose to do something with this. We will make something out of this, and so will all of you. Okay? Promise me. We're in this together. Awesome. Okay. So now I want to take questions. Do we have questions today? Anybody got questions? Things I can help with? What do you got going on? I almost brought music. I almost turned this into a dance party. I might do that next time. You can send me some song requests. We might come up with a Work It Daily, dance routine. Not sure, for job jams, because when you all start getting jobs, coaches love to do job jams. Maybe that's where we'll go with this. So we're going to need some music, and we'll be job jamming as people land jobs. Awesome. All right. What do we got for questions? Brandon, the Jeff Bezos of career coaching. Okay. Well, but I heard he's really intense though, Brandon. He's super intense. Can I be the Richard Branson of career coaching? I love him. I love his energy, his vibe, just what he puts out in the world. Can I be Richard Branson? I'm aspiring pretty high now. Can I be the Oprah Winfrey of career coaching? She's super positive too. Okay, I think I see your question. Olga says, which jobs would you recommend based on the following results? Visionary, builder, super connector, researcher. Okay, and you're a contemplator. Fascinating. Okay, Olga. So let's look at that combo. Your strengths are visionary, builder, right? So not only can you see something that others can't, but you like to build it. You like to actually execute on it. That's a very interesting combo. And the fact that you're a contemplator, but super connector came in a hot third. How interesting is that? Because a lot of people assume that only really extroverted people like energizers are super connectors. Being a super connector that's a contemplator is super powerful. You have a low-key way of making friends and building friendships. I bet, Olga, you're the one that initially, maybe nobody notices in that first meeting, right? You're just kind of laid back, quiet, but then you're there again, and they hear you start to speak, and they say, wow, she's pretty intelligent. She says some pretty smart things. And then all of a sudden people feel so comfortable around you because you're not dominating the conversation, and you tend to be very careful in what you say. And all of a sudden people start to open up to you, and they just feel like, wow, she's a really good listener. Olga's a good listener. I just like her. I feel so happy and calm when I'm around her. Does that sound about right? Now imagine that same personality. When you do talk, you kind of connect the dots for people. And you say, well, I kind of see this. Well, wow, that's really thoughtful. That's really intentional. Olga, I wouldn't have seen it that way. And hey, and I think we could do it this way, and this way. And I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and making those things happen. So that's what that combination speaks to, or kind of comes across as, Olga. So if that's the case, then you can imagine project management is right up your alley, because it requires you to have a vision. It requires you to earn the trust and respect of people who feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you about good things and bad things, right? Because you don't want any surprises in project management. And you're a builder, so you're not afraid to get in there and roll up your sleeves. You're not just going to delegate. You're also going to help people along the way. So anything that involves project coordination, project management, you would be very good for. Does that make sense? Awesome. Let's see. David says, would a contemplator, researcher, educator be well suited to be a market researcher or an analyst? Yes, David, but when you're a contemplator, researcher, educator, you tend to want to work alone as much as possible. So the only time that you're comfortable when you're talking with people would be when you are tasked with telling them information and how to do something. In that respect, you become very comfortable because it's not a one-on-one dialogue, or it's not a feeling of being assessed or judged. It's simply your job is to deliver information and help people understand something. And that becomes a comfort zone because you've done the research and you've thought it through. So an individual contributor role that is heavily data-based would be ideal for you. And then again, the component might be for you to present the results or the findings. That's where that educator piece comes in. Yeah. Very good. All right. What else do we got here? Did that help? Yeah. What other questions can I answer for all of you? Good. You're good? Awesome. Olga said, is there a level of appropriateness for asking potential employers during round 1, 2, or 3 in the final interview? So, I'm not, when you say a level of appropriateness, Olga, what do you mean by that? What are we asking, I guess, is the question. What do you want to ask and the level of appropriateness? How to get over writer's block when you when writing a disruptive cover letter. So when I do that, Nancy, anytime I'm struggling to write a disruptive cover letter, I step back and look at the business and what it does. And I say, okay, what are 3 times where I use that product, or 3 times where I use that service, or I could have used that service? I think like a consumer of the company's product or service. And I really try to get in the mind of why I would use it, how often would I use it, what would happen if I didn't use it. Try to be the consumer. Go do some research around it. Even go search the company and see what their consumers say in reviews. What you need is for your brain to make more of an emotional connection to the potential employer. So you're going to have to look more at their products or their services model and their customer base. Go to their social media. Look for things that speak to you. And if you do enough of that, you should shake a tree and come up with an idea. And if you're still struggling, what you should do is share who you're applying to and why, and with the coaches, and they can usually give you some ideas of directions to go in for your cover letter as well. That's what the coaches are there for. Steven says, I recently got a Gap job. Nice. I've been thinking about putting it on my LinkedIn profile, but not sure if it would be received favorably or not. I'm at Walmart Food Warehouse sending out orders to stores. So, okay, that's a great question, Steve. I'm glad you brought it up. Right now, my advice to you is to not put it on there. Not that it's not an awesome job, but your LinkedIn profile, the work history section is relevant work history. So to me, that's an additional experience job and not your current employer. So I would not put that on your LinkedIn profile. And if you were going to put it on your resume, it would go in the additional experience section. All righty. Let's see. Oh, which interview questions to ask during rounds 1, 2, or 3 of a final interview? Oh, that's a great question. Well, the thing is that when you, in your first phone screen, right, they're doing is trying to assess whether or not you're going to move to the next level. And so I wouldn't ask too many questions in the first phone screen. Right. And if I was going to ask anything, I would think about the fact that the person that's calling you the first time is a technical buyer. They have to make sure you're a match. So probably the only questions I'm going to ask in that is, can you tell me what's most important to you right now in the candidate you're looking for? What are the skill sets that are most important to you and why? And then also, will you be deciding who moves to the next round? And is there anything I can do to further my candidacy? Right. So 2 just really basic questions that speak to the technical buyer. What are they looking for in a candidate? Why is that important? And, how does the next steps in the process work? Is there anything I can do to further my candidacy? That's all I do in first round. When you start to get to the in-person round, when they're investing more, or at least you're doing the video conferencing with hiring managers, now they're looking for you to be a fit. So that's when, if you go and look at, we did a video in there about the questions you should ask. This is when you start to ask questions to build relationship. So how did you get your job here? What do you like about working here? How will this job support you? What would you want to see this person do to make your life easier, right? So I'm trying to understand how this job would, make your life better and easier, which is important. What keeps you up at night? All those questions that we teach you in there are more focused on the relationship aspect of, what do I need to do in order to exceed your expectations and make me the most logical fit? And then at the end, right, when you're in the final phase, you're usually speaking to the people that can really make or break the decision. You want to focus on the aspects of the best return on the investment. So, how will you know that I am exceeding your expectations and have been a good investment in your time and money? Things like that. And if there was anything about my skill sets that you think are the most valuable, or you'd like to see more of, what are they? So you start to ask more questions around the value that I would deliver, and how to make sure, that they really see that value. Is there anything I haven't shared with you that you think is important? Is there anything you think is missing from my skill sets that maybe I haven't spoken to yet that I could articulate and explain more to you? Right? So you're really trying to close their gap and help them make that financial decision. And we have questions, the questions laid out. I'm kind of spitballing here, but I think your thought process is very good, which is, I'm not going to go with those heavy hitter questions in this phone screen. I have to wait till they're picking me. And the later you go in the process and the further you get is when you get to start to ask them those deeper questions. Then, of course, once you get the offer, now we can start to ask things about benefits and time off and future compensation and all those sorts of things, because you're sitting in the buyer's seat, right? Now you're sitting in the driver's seat. They've chosen you. They want you. So this is when the negotiations can start. Okay? Let's see. Brandon says, when matching your quiz results to potential jobs, is the matchmaking made for a cultural standpoint or job responsibilities? Job responsibilities, Brandon, it's still going to be on you to interview with that company and make sure they're a cultural fit. I can put you, let's say you qualified to be an account manager. Well, 10 companies are all going to have 10 different definitions of what account manager is, and the culture in that company and what they value will be different too. So that's just an initial match based on skill set. It's still going to be on you to go through the interview process and decide if it's a cultural fit. Sonny says, so what do you do when you still don't know what you want to do for the third part of your life? Still searching for my purpose. I'm an energizer. That's a great question. That's a great question. So, Sonny, for me, especially for an energizer, let's talk about that. Energizers tend to be visionary by default and see a lot of opportunity. They also love new things. So anything repetitive is boring to you. And it can be very hard to get excited about a career path because you're fearful that it will get boring, right? You want to have that variety. At the same time, what are we told? We need to be specialists. So my advice to you is to worry less about a skill set and more about a cause. I want you to focus on a problem bigger than you that you want to solve, because there'll be lots of different jobs and different companies that'll be associated with solving that problem. And that gives you the choice that you need to feel comfortable. So for example, for me, I said, I am going to focus on solving this problem of career satisfaction. I got committed to the idea of, how do we live in a time where there's so much choice and so much opportunity, and yet so many people are so unhappy? What is going on? And that's a big, hard problem to solve that's not easily solved, but it's given me years and years of fulfillment in trying to figure that out and to help people figure that out. So you need to start looking much bigger picture. And that's pretty classic for people in the third phase of their career. In the first phase of our career, we don't even know what we don't know, right? We're just trying to land a job and get skills and move ahead. Then we start to figure out what we do and don't like, and we get more strategic. That's when I see people actually identify a quote unquote career path and go after it and get some traction in it. And that gets really exciting to them because they realize, oh, I have more control than I thought. I can actually navigate my future in a career. But then they go, okay, I figured out how to do that, but is this the career I really want? Is this really where I want to be? And this is when people start to really dive into that feeling of service. And how do I work on something bigger than me? How do I feel more fulfilled in my work? And so the solution is to identify a problem bigger than you. And this is why people are talking about this becoming the passion economy, because we're going to have a lot of people in that third stage of their careers that are going to be looking at that and figuring that out. So you're not alone. If it was that easy, we wouldn't be here. Work Daily wouldn't be here. But I will tell you from my experience, you need to do some real deep thought on a problem bigger than yourself that you could get into and really sink your teeth into over the course of another 10 or 15 years. Right? And that'll come to you. That'll come to you. One great way to do that is to list out 20 companies you admire and then ask yourself, what do they all have in common? It's incredible how that all starts to funnel itself out when you play connect the dots on the companies that you most admire. Let's see. How do you answer the question, what are your salary expectations during COVID-19? Oh my gosh, what a fantastic question. So you know what? Anytime, this is a tip, I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to tell you again. Anytime somebody asks you a hard question, anytime in an interview, always respond with, that's a good question. Complimenting somebody for a challenging question completely scores points. Every single time. So it's a little secret mind hack that when somebody asks you a hard question in an interview, you should say, wow, that's a really good question, and put a smile on your face because you're complimenting them, right? And then my answer is COVID-19 has made me rethink, and I don't really know that I have the answers to my salary expectations. I know what I needed to live off of prior to COVID-19. I had a minimum. Back then I had a walk-away rate. I know I had an ideal of what I hope to make, and I can share that range with you. But until this is over and people start to go back to work, I don't really know how to price myself and what I will need going forward. So this was my range pre-COVID-19, but I certainly don't want to price myself out of anything. I really want to find the right employer and try to figure it out. So that's the answer I would give. Right? Speak to what's going on. Give them what your range was, because we teach you how to do that here in the program prior to COVID-19, but make it very clear that until COVID-19 is over, this is all really up in the air to you, that it's very likely that your expectations could change, right? Because that's the truth. It's a good question. Wonderful. Jabber says, given that empathizers by definition avoid confrontation, how does climbing the corporate ladder look like for them? Candidly, Jabber, they peak. They get to a certain level and they say, this is all I can tolerate. I'm happy here. I'm good here. I don't want to take on the added stress. I don't want the headaches. I don't want the conflict. I don't want to deal with negative people. I don't want to be combative. So this role works for me. And I'm going to focus on my life and my extracurricular activities and my family and my friends and other things. And this job is a career, and it's a good one, but it's not my number one priority. If you think about it, empathizers by the name, right? Where are their priorities? It's with people. So, career is never going to be number one on their life balance grid. And that is okay. It's not supposed to be number one for everybody. So they do eventually peak because they can't stomach the difficulty. You're not going to find a lot of empathizers in C-suites. It's rough. And people say, oh, well, that's part of the problem with the world today. I get that, but I'll tell you right now, if any of you have had to sit, and I have many times over, in businesses right now who are having to make the awful decisions to lay people off, those people aren't enjoying it. They're just plowing through it. But yeah, again, it's not a bad thing. It's just when it comes to going higher level, empathizers tend to max out at a certain place that they can stand, and that's it. My dad always used to say to me, JT, how far you'll go in your career up the ladder is directly proportionate to how much bleep you're willing to put up with. My dad was an honest man. He was no nonsense. And he was right. He is absolutely right, because you got to decide, right? People call it politics. You can call it whatever you want. How much bleep you're willing to put up with will determine how high up you want to go. Because, and again, it's a choice, not how high up you can go. Let's make that abundantly clear here, folks. We all have the choice. We all can go straight to the top if we want to. The question is, what are you willing to put up with? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to accept? Right? There's trade-offs. So totally your call. You're in control. Let's see. Rocky says, what can I do with this? Visionary 20%, mentor 15, optimizer 15. I'm really stuck deciding on a specialization. Oh, okay. That's great. So, visionary mentor optimizer is definitely a classic coach combination. So, Rocky, you enjoy helping others develop themselves, particularly in situations where they're stuck and you want them to be able to make some calculated improvements. So somebody like you is good working with constraint. Optimizers are very good at looking at an existing situation and being able to identify things that could be tweaked or changed in order to get improvement, right? So think about that. So someone like you loves to mentor somebody, and I could see you going, all right, let's imagine this scenario. And the person's like, yes. And he says, what do you think we'd need to do? Because a mentor asks questions, they don't tell people. An educator tells you, a mentor asks you and makes you figure it out for yourself. But you have an agenda. You know exactly what questions to ask to get them to realize the optimizations they could make to get the improvements they need to get results, right? So somebody like you would do well in a coaching situation. You'd also do really well in a complex sales situation. So because in a complex sales situation, you're really asking the client a ton of questions. You have to get deep inside their head. You have to figure out where their gaps in knowledge are that might create objections or resistance. And then you have to be very strategic in asking them questions that bring their thought process through a journey to give them some aha moments so that they can literally see that the solution is what you're offering. It's a very delicate process. And that's why we see a lot of very successful salespeople have the visionary mentor connection, because they understand that they have to be very patient with their clients and bring them through. So that would work well for you as well. Does that help? All right. Okay. Every once in a while, it just throws me out of here. I don't know why. Just likes to throw me out. Let's see. Oh, good. Rocky says you pegged me. Good. See, this is why we have the quiz. Let's see. Angela wants to know. Angela says, oh, sorry, those went really fast. Visionary 25, mentor 20, educator 15. So, Angela, you're just like Rocky. You're just like Rocky. What I just talked about with that whole coaching and complex sales situation, very much a match for you there, right? Also, I would tell you that usually somebody with those combinations is pretty good in a senior leadership role when the role heavily involves developing people. So, right, if you think about it, developing people, that mentoring factor. So you would be good in a people development role within, say, a department, that sort of thing. So that's what I meant about the coaching. So let's say you're in finance. I could see you being, a manager within the finance department whose goal is to upskill everybody. And so you get them focused on a common vision, right? You get them understanding, you're empowering them, you're asking them questions, you're helping them become very robust. So that would work for you as well. Olga's asking about potential fit, cultural fit. So Olga, we actually have an entire section on that in the interview prep. The only reason I push back on that is that it's a lot to cover with respect to cultural fit. So knowing knowing what questions to ask and looking at that. And we do have a section on that. So I would encourage you, only because I can't do it justice in just a few minutes here. And it's so worth going through and understanding. Let's see. Wonderful. Angela says, I used to be in global outsourcing. Well, there you go, Angela. You're confirming what I said. I love it. Very good. All right, team. Well, so are we good? Everybody good? We got this. Look at you. Look at how much you're learning about yourself. You're learning about your communication style. You're learning about your professional strengths. You're building your interview skills. You've got your resume, your LinkedIn. You're learning to network. You're 100 times ahead of the game. So many millions of people out there are not learning any of this stuff. And I get it, like the thought of it at first. Don't you all agree? Like the thought of having to learn this stuff, everyone goes, ugh. Like they literally make that face. And then you start to learn this stuff and you go, well, this is kind of cool. I'm actually figuring out how to own my business of one. And I can actually maybe write my future and make some strategic decisions. I love to see that that's where you all are at, those of you participating. And for those of you that have just started, you'll get there. Start with our job search plan. Trust in the process. Let us educate you one day at a time. It's called Work It Daily for a reason. And you're going to blink, and before you know it, you're going to be smarter. You're going to be more powered. Last session, I talked to you about the stages of competence. So millions upon millions of people will stay blissfully unconsciously incompetent out there. We're going to have a whole bunch of people that can't get hired, can't find jobs, stay miserable, blame the system, and be angry for a long time. Consciously incompetent, not a lot any of us can do about that. But eventually, some people are going to become consciously incompetent. They're going to realize maybe there's something I'm not doing right. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe there's another way to do this. And they'll either, not do anything about that, or they'll go look for some resources like the one you're in right now. So again, pat yourselves on the back because you became consciously incompetent and didn't beat yourself up, right? You said, all I need is some info. All I got to do is close my gap in knowledge, build up my skills a little. I can get good at this. So good for you for having the confidence. Very quickly, as you work with us day in and day out, you will become consciously competent at your resume, at your LinkedIn profile, at your cover letter, at your interview prep, at your networking, at your strategy, at figuring out your strengths, at trying to figure out a career path, at taking advantage of opportunity. And eventually you're going to become unconsciously competent. And you know when that day comes, folks? Do y'all know when that day comes? What's a sign that you've become unconsciously competent at your career and your job search? Somebody pop in the chat. What do you think is a sign that you've really grown there? I want to see if anybody gets it. Can you get it? Let's see. How do you know you've become unconsciously competent at this stuff? I'm going to stay on until somebody gives me an answer. Huh? There's a sign. There's a sign. You'll know when. Yeah, well, you don't sweat in an interview. Yeah, you get the job you love. Yes, those are right. Those are right. When you're happy, yes, these are all correct. Keep going. Keep going. But there's a real sign. You'll know when you've turned a corner. When you don't have to think about it. David, correct? You know what it is? Someday in the not so distant future, someone's going to look at you and say, how did you know that? You're so smart. You really have a handle on this. You really just seem like you've got it together. I'm really impressed with what you figured out. Do you think we could have a conversation? I'd really love to pick your brain and understand you better. I'd love to see what you're doing and why you're doing it. Eventually, people are going to notice. The world around you is going to see a new and improved and better you when it comes to your career. And it's going to be attractive as all heck. And they're going to start coming out of the woodwork and asking you questions and wanting to know how you did it. And that's when you'll know you're a different person. When people notice, when people ask, you've changed. And that is the truth. So stay with me. We'll get you there. I promise. Yes? Probably seeing it already. My staff tells me all the time, my teammates, they're so funny. They're like, everyone comes to them and asks about resume and whatnot, because they just, over time, they talk so knowledgeably without even thinking about it. They just share info and examples and tell stories of what they did. And all of a sudden their friends and family are like, who are you? Why do you know all that? And you'll be the same way. You know what? That's the whole reason I started this company. Because if 1 million of us can get unconsciously competent at this stuff and just get out there in the world, we'll help a million more people and then a million more. And I really will solve this big problem of why everybody's so unhappy with work. I told you it's way bigger than myself, bigger than my lifetime, but I'm not giving up until we make an impact. Work It Daily is going to make a dent, but I need you all to get unconsciously competent. So stay on it, okay? We're going to do this together. Make sense? Cool. All right. You all are the best. And yes, you are on your way, Jane. You can feel it, right? There's a feeling. There's just all of a sudden you're like, ooh, it was kind of hard to get going. And I wasn't really psyched about doing my resume. And all of a sudden you get into it and you're like, oh, I'm on the wave. You got it. All right, team, you're the best. So listen, I'll be back with you next Tuesday, right? So keep working, keep doing, keep coming in here. I know we've got our Getting Unstuck webinars going on at 1 p.m. Hit that up. Great thing going on there. Stay safe, healthy, and happy. And I'll be back with you soon. And you know where to find us if you need us. You're part of the family now. You need us. You just message us, okay? All right, everyone. Take care. Bye.